All right, good morning, everyone. We're continuing in our quest for knowledge and perfection that the Moshiach is going to bring. And perfection means that we can work and we can, it says that when God created the world, he created it perfect. The world was created perfect. What does it mean was perfect? It's like buying a complete, not perfect. It's like buying a puzzle. You buy a puzzle that says, special puzzle, 100,000 pieces. You go and you open up the puzzle, and you see there's like 20 million pieces there. And you look at the instructions and it says, here, this is a 100,000 piece puzzle. All the other pieces are superfluous. You don't need them. Not part of the whole picture. You have to find the ones that are good and arrange them. And then you'll see an amazing picture. There's a secret, where the hidden treasure is, something like that. So that's something like what the world is. God created the world. He created it complete. What does it mean complete? The whole puzzle is there. The whole box is there. You have a picture on the front, what it's supposed to look like. The difference over here is that we don't have a picture of what it's supposed to look like because the world is going to be so perfect that we've never seen anything like it. Can't imagine. We can just sort of get ideas about how the world is supposed to be. Where do we get these ideas from? That's Chassidut. That's the purpose of Chassidut. By speaking about all these upper worlds and higher worlds, and we start to realize that the way that the world is not the way it's supposed to be. And it's supposed to be a type of harmony and beauty and power and love and health and productivity that we've never, courage, the things that we've never imagined before. We only have little sort of rays of it. Oh, here we go. So that's what it means. Bati LGani, when God put man in the world was complete. It was complete. Everything was here, but man had to work on it. And we're working that we should get back to that same level. Moshiach is going to come. Then we're going to really start to do work. Then we're going to really work again. Remember, we learned about that. It's not Moshiach is going to come and all of a sudden everybody's just going to float up to heaven and that's it. Right? There's not going to be any more world. Everybody will just get anything they want to up in heaven. That's not the true idea. It's a nice idea, it's very inspiring, it's very motivating, but it's not true. The fact of the matter is Mashiach is going to come and activate everybody. Everybody's going to be activated, and like Adam was activated. So let's see. Maybe I can pull this thing off. The lighting here is sort of weird. I think maybe my camera here is beginning to see. This is the right side. This is the left side. So maybe this is too much. And my camera is beginning to rebel against me. Here we go. There we go. All right. We'll see. Anyway. Okay, so that's what it means. Bati LGani, I have come to my garden. The world was complete. It was complete. And Adam was supposed to start to work. And he didn't. He didn't work. He saw something that he thought was pleasurable and he was supposed to avoid it, and he didn't avoid it. So that brought egotism into the world, and people started thinking about only what I want. And the first person to come along and fix this up was Abraham. Abraham was the first person not to think about what he wanted, only to think about what God wants. To the point where he was willing to lose everything in order to do what God wants. God said, oh, here we have someone who got the point. He's got the point. He's serving me. He's working for me. He's doing what I want. What do I want? Whatever I tell him, that's what I want. And Abraham said, oh, yeah, God, that's right. That's me. I'm just doing whatever you want. God said, oh, yeah? Yeah. Okay, let's see. Circumcise yourself. Abraham didn't say, oh, come on, what am I going to get from that? I mean, there's no benefit in it, I mean, as far as function goes, to have children, you can have children whether you're circumcised or not. What's the point of circumcising myself? I don't know. Who's going to see it? Abraham didn't say that. So that's what you want. Oh, I'm so happy. God, thank you. Just tell me more things to do, whatever you want. 38 years later, God said to him, now you got a beautiful son, right? You waited all your life. Take him and sacrifice him. Abraham said, okay. Which meant he was going to lose going to heaven. He was going to lose everything. right? He wasn't thinking about losing. He didn't want to lose anything. Of course, he didn't want to. But the idea that he was serving the Creator and doing whatever the Creator wants, and the Creator is like his name. He's the Creator. He's creating everything, so he's pretty good. He's not our enemy. He is creating us. So to be able to do what the Creator wants, but you have to appreciate the Creator. You have to appreciate God. If you don't appreciate God, then you fall into idolatry. You fall into the same mistake that Adam did. That's what all the religions of the world are based on: serving yourself, making the same mistake that Adam made, thinking about going to heaven, think about what I'm going to get, not going to hell, etc. Me, thinking about myself. And if I do this, God is going to help me. The idea is that we're supposed to be so happy to do what God wants. It's like children with a father, right? The father says, "Take out the trash." The child says, "Okay, what are you going to give me, Dad, if I do?" I mean, I'm giving you a house. I'm giving you protection. I'm your father. I'm feeding you. I'm providing for you. All I'm asking you is just to take out the trash. The son said, "I heard what you said. I heard what you said, but I have my demands also." What type of a son is that? What type of a person? So there has to be unquestioning loyalty, and the reason there has to be unquestioning loyalty is not because God is going to beat us up. The father's not going to beat you up if you don't do what he says, because he's so good. So we have to appreciate how good God is, and that's one of the ideas of Hasidut, to appreciate how good God is. Oh, we don't. Okay, let's go. Excuse me. So we started this mimer, and it said, and now this, again, for the people who are coming in late or just watching this late, this was a discourse, this was a Hasidic discourse said by the previous Lubavitcher Rebbe Yosef Yitzchok, that I used to have a picture of him, but I don't have a picture. Do I have a picture? No, don't have a picture. And it was said really in like 1926 or something like that. But he ordered that it should be reprinted and distributed to the Hasidim on 1950. And it ended up that he, on Yud Shvat, which Yud Shvat was also the day of the passing away of his grandmother. So he wanted it to be distributed. And in the end, he passed away on that day. And you can say, I mean, he didn't know he was going to pass away. He didn't want to pass away. Or you can say that the Rebbe knew everything. He knew everything that was going to happen. And this is like the orders for the next generation. And the Rebbe, his successor, right? Our Rebbe, it was also his son-in-law, said that the previous Rebbe did not pass away. It just sort of, changed appearances, whatever you want to call it. I mean, I don't understand these things, but nevertheless, as tzaddikim, they don't die. I don't know what it means dying. I don't know what it means living. I don't know how we're here. Here we are. We're serving. The whole thing is a big miracle. But tzaddikim, for sure, we don't understand anything. In some ways, we understand less about tzaddikim than we understand about God. Because God, we understand, He's infinite, and we can learn about it. But what tzaddikim are, we think we understand something. And that's even further away. Okay. So the Rebbe says like this: in the beginning, God created man, and he created man to work. And man is supposed to, what do you mean work? To make God more revealed in the world and to increase our motivation to serve God. So that's why God created man, to perfect the world. Why he did this, I have absolutely no idea. This is God. We're talking about God, right? Why he creates me, why he puts my nose over here, why he puts my 2 ears, why do we don't have antlers or something like that? God does what he wants. The whole world is what God wants. And one of the things that God wants is that we should serve him, that we should do what he wants. And we should want that, because it's like, getting accepted for a job, getting a scholarship to university. What do you mean? You get the scholarship to university, you can just go there and make, do whatever you want to, make, what is it called, revolutions, or what they do nowadays. You get a scholarship to universities, you can go there and you can work, you can learn to be a doctor, you can start to work. Adam was chosen by man, by God. God is pretty good to work, but he didn't. So the next generation messed it up also, and they kept going and continuing. And the reason is very simply because it's fun to do sins. It's fun. It's fun. All the things that says are forbidden to do in the Ten Commandments, these are fun things. Maybe not everybody enjoys all the things, but there's a temptation to do all of them, right? Don't kill, don't this. People are tempted to do this. So you have to go against nature, and again, even more, to go against nature, you have to transform nature. That's supposed to be the idea. Okay, how can you transform nature? Says the Rebbe, that's called eskafia. That's called eskafia, means to resist, defy nature, do what God says even though you don't want to, and refrain from what God prohibits even though you do want to. That's called eskafia, forcing yourself, kfia. And it means forcing yourself. You force yourself because you're convinced you want to do it. You have to go against your nature, but you want to do it. You realize it's good. Huh? Like there's these people who are alcoholics and everything. So they force themselves not to drink. How do they force themselves? They can use all the willpower and it'll never work. They have to think there's a higher power. They have to think about who am I really? Is this what I really want to do? This is my, I can't expect more than that from myself, and etc. This is not me. To be a drunkard, just to run after these stupid pleasures. But he wants to drink. So he forces himself, but he forces himself for good reasons. That's called eskafia. Then there's eshapcha, where he transforms himself. In the case of the alcoholic, drinking disgusts him. He doesn't want getting drunk. What am I going to get drunk for? To have a drink once in a while, to get with friends, we want to dance, you want to have a good time. Okay, no problem. But every night, all the time, that's ridiculous. That's that feeling that's ridiculous. That's called eshapcha. You transformed it. You used, in our case, let's say alcohol, you used alcohol for only good purposes. Only good purposes. And some people, they can't. They have to be in this eskafia their whole lives. They have to be their whole lives just fighting against the bad and forcing themselves to do good. But eshapcha means you really are disgusted by the bad. There's no way you're going to do it. Going against God would be like cutting off your foot. Anybody who wants to can go and cut off your foot. You want to go, you can go to a hardware store and buy one of these, electric saws. You can cut off your foot if you want to. Who would do a thing like that? That's simply insane. Well, it's even more insane. That's what the people, this eshapcha mean. The people that transform themselves, they feel that to go against what God says, even the most minor thing, even if it comes through the rabbis, to go against what God says is like cutting off my foot. I would never do it. But you see, there's all these other people that go against God and they don't cut off their foot. There's nothing happens. It says, it doesn't make any difference what happens to anybody. I'm not going to go against God. I don't care if I go to heaven. I'm not going to go against God. Makes no difference what you say. I'm not going against God. There were Jews that burned on the stake. The church burned them on the stake. The church said, you do what we say, we're going to go to heaven. All these genius priests and things like they say to you, it's true, you're going to go to heaven, just believe it. They say, I don't want to go to heaven. I want to do what God wants. You can burn me. I'm not Shema Yisrael, I'm a Jew. That's called eshapcha. All of a sudden, you cannot go against God. Going against God, like I said, it's like cutting off your own leg or something. Can't do it. And on the other hand, to do what God wants, eshapcha, it makes you happy. The neshama lamata, the soul goes below, and it gets put into the body and into your natural personality, your natural drives, v'heim yalimu, and the body. Body is like physical drives, and nefesh b'amis, that's like already, how do you say, emotional drives. Nefesh b'amis, the animal soul. It's called the animal because it's like an animal. It's natural. And the body is even more natural. Body's like eating and sleeping. Nefesh b'amis, the natural desires of the nefesh b'amis is sort of like what I want to eat, how I want to eat, jealousy, anger, depression, aggression. And these things, yalimu v'yastiru, they conceal over the light of the soul. Now, soul means several different things. So soul means a few different things, and we'll talk about this a little bit. The Jewish people have what's called two souls. They have what's called a godly soul. two souls means two identities. One identity is a natural, normal identity, and the other identity is a godly identity. This godly identity wants to do what it says in the Torah, and it wants to avoid what is forbidden. It wants. It's already there. So this thing is as hapcha. We talked about transforming yourself. It's already there. By every Jew, that's the natural Jew. Again, I want to stress this because it's so very important, and this perhaps is the main message of the Moshiach, that the world is good, and that human beings, every human being is good. Every human being is good. We're naturally good. God said it to Noah 1,600 years after Adam sinned with the tree. He said, man is created in the image of God. That means every single man, not just me or you or my friends or my family. It means every single human being. Doesn't make any difference what they look like, what they are, who they are. If they're mentally what do they say, challenged, if they're emotionally challenged, if they're physically challenged, every person is made in the image of God. Huh? The Germans, the Nazis used to kill people. Anybody who was euthanasia, anyone who was, not practical for the country, wasn't used. Old people, people with Down syndrome, this. Anyone who's sort of a little bit, not the ideal, their ideal what it meant, so they killed him. There's other religions that say everybody doesn't believe like us is bad, they're evil. The Torah says everyone's created by God, everyone is good, and not only that, the world is good, but it's very concealed. To the point where in Judaism, what's called bad is called klippa, shells. Shell is bad. What's inside of the shell, the fruit is good. So the soul is good. But the Jewish people, they have what's called a godly soul. They really feel God. That's the Jew. Well, that's why we're called sons of God. You have a next door neighbor, you really like him. He's really a nice guy. He likes you. That's wonderful. But his children, he has a totally different relationship with them. That's unspoken. He doesn't have to do anything for his children to be a father. That's the relationship between the Jews and God. We're the sons of God. That's what it says in the Torah. I didn't make this up. It seems a little bit chauvinistic, but I didn't create the world. So that's the soul. Okay, so the body, the natural soul, the world conceals over the soul. Nevertheless, the whole idea is the soul should come into the world. That's what it means, and fix the world up. That's what it means. Make me a mikdash, make me a holy temple, and I will dwell inside of them, inside of each and every one. Every Jew is a holy temple. And like in the Holy Temple, there was the Holy of Holies. And like in the Holy Temple, they made sacrifices. There was work. The whole thing of the Holy Temple was work. They brought the sacrifices, they sang. We talked about that in the second paragraph. So God wants to be revealed inside of each and every Jew. Start to, plug the Holy Temple in. Make it start to work. And this is by means of avodah. And this is by means of work. That's the idea of Moshiach. He'll come to make everybody work. The non-Jews will do what's called 7 Noahide commandments, and the Jews will do all this 613 commandments, all the commentaries. And the 7 Noahide commandments also have a lot of commentaries and branches and implications. You should know that the 7 Noahide commandments are only negative. There's only the negative ones, but there's a lot of positive ones as well. A lot of positive ones. I wrote an essay about it. I'll put, if you want to, I'll send the link. But there's some opinions that the non-Jews are commanded also to love God, to love their parents, to pray, to give charity. Okay. Is that this is by means of eskafia, by means of forcing yourself to do bad and turn from good, to do, that's exactly the opposite. Eskafia, forcing yourself to turn from bad and forcing yourself to do good. Hope nobody cuts that part out that I said and then puts it on social media. Eskafia means forcing yourself to turn from bad and forcing yourself to do good. Eshapcha means enjoying doing good and hating anything that's bad. Eshapcha. The neshama that the soul comes down below, puts into the body. We just did this, and that's what it means. That's what it means. Asali mikdash v'shachanti b'tochem. Make me a holy temple, and I'll dwell within each and every one of you. This is by means of avoda. There we go. But the service of eskafi esapcha. That's what we got up to. Like it says, kad eskafi sitra achra. Like it says, when there is, pushed away. See, where is this number 3? This is in the Tanya. It says in the Tanya, the Kuti Torah, and etc. Okay. So the saying goes like this. When there is controlled the Sitra Achra. Sitra Achra is the same thing like Klippa, a shell. Sitra Achra means the other side. The other side. Everything in the world is God. Everything in the world is good. What's the other side? The other side is what's not good. But that's the way that God made the world. God made the world in such a way that everything that's good has a counterpart, a mirror to it. Zeh le'umot zeh, like it says. When we do what Adam was supposed to have done, and we force ourselves to do good, and we force ourselves to turn from bad, we change our nature. Estalik, there is spread out Yakora, the glory of God, Bakulu Almin, in all of the worlds. Okay, these words are seemingly unnecessary. What do you mean? When we do what God wants, when we force ourselves to do what God wants, then the glory of God, God's presence, God's pleasure, spreads out in all of the worlds. What do we care about all the worlds? First of all, what does it mean all the worlds? How many worlds are there? It's just this world, right? The glory of God spreads out through this world. But that's not what it says. It says in all the worlds. That's what it says. Okay, now we're going to go into a little bit of a Kabbalistic discourse about how infinitely far away God is from us. How infinitely far he is from us. And we always have to keep remembering when we're reading this, that God who's infinitely far away from us, infinitely far away from, distant from the spiritual, how he creates the spiritual. We're going to talk about these different spiritual worlds. That same God is creating me and you. And not only me and you who's listening to this class, but also all of the me's and you's that are not listening to this class. He's creating everybody, and not only people, but animals, not only animals, but plants, not only plants, but minerals, not only minerals, but spirits, all the spiritual worlds. God is creating everything. Right? Now we're not talking about, here we're talking about it. When we say everything, we think about the physical world, right? All the ants and in Nigerian desert or something like that. The Sahara Desert. Right? God creates everything there is. But that's compared to nothing. That's only this world. There's all the spiritual worlds God is creating. And God is above all that. And this same God is creating us. So, and then what, he's infinitely close to us, but that's nothing compared to what it is when we do what he wants. Then he's even closer. Okay, so here we go. It says that when we force ourselves to do what God wants, then the glory of God spreads out in all of the worlds. What does it mean, all the worlds? Hakavana, the intention is that this is a type of light of God, which is in all of the worlds equally. Hainu, or a Soviet calling the light which surrounds all the worlds. Shemeir b'kol olamot b'shava, that it shines in all the worlds equally. For our purposes, another word for the Soviet Kolomim is God, right? You go to a person, ask him, a little child, where is God? He'll point up. God is up. He's above us. It says, sure, he's above us. What he's talking about. The spiritual worlds are above us. And God is above the spiritual worlds. He's before them. But what about this physical world? This physical world is a physical world. You have a wallet, and you have your hat, and you have this. The same God who creates these angels, Michael, is creating my hat, and he's creating the world. How does this work out? So it says there's one thing that all these worlds have in common, is that they exist. They exist. And that's this aspect of God, pure existence. Like we said so many times before, God does not really exist. God, in any way that we can define the word existence. God creates all existence. That's this idea of Sovev Kolmim. God defies Sovev. He surrounds, he defies, Kol Olmim, any definition. Olmim means worlds, limits. God defies all of it. This is the aspect of God that surrounds all the worlds. He creates everything, pure existence. I mean, the Olam was that in the worlds, there's also the different levels. Okay, now we're going to get spiritual, a little bit of Kabbalah. You have a Kabbalah, you can impress your friends. You know, these Kabbalistic ideas. Ready? The Eino Dome, it's not similar, the upper worlds to the lower worlds. In the upper worlds, God shines more. In the lower worlds, God doesn't shine as much. And also the light itself that does shine in the lower worlds comes with Bechinas Helam Vehester. It's concealed. Huh? Like you go in university, in the upper mathematics, you learn upper mathematics, so there's more mathematics, and what you learn is pure. You just put one little sign in it, it stands for a whole gamut of ideas. In the lower classes, children that learn mathematics in first grade and second grade, I hope they still learn mathematics in school. They learn all these crazy things. They learn mathematics in school. So what do they teach? Only a little bit of mathematics. And what they teach them is very, very, very watered down. Huh? What is one and one is two? Too much, teacher. One banana and two bananas. How many bananas do we have? Two bananas. A kid raises his hand. Does this work also with apples? What about if you have an apple or a banana? But very simple ideas. The same thing is in our world. Godliness. We have a very little bit of godliness in this world, and the little bit that we do is very, very watered down. There's all sorts of different levels. Like it says, Af yadi yista oretz, my hand founded the earth, and my right hand spread out the heavens. And it says in the Midrash that God stuck out his right hand and he created the heavens, stuck out his right hand, and he created Shamayim, the upper worlds, but not the small, and he stuck out his left hand and he created the physical world. God has hands? I didn't know God has hands. It says, one second, God has a will. Yeah, God speaks, he talks. Yeah, it says God sees, so he's got eyes. God hears, he hears. Right? It says he hears what we say. So God must have eyes in it, but all these astronauts and people, they didn't see a big eye. Wow, I see a big eyeball out there. Right? God hasn't got any eyes. But here it says that he does. And he has hands. It means that what does it mean, God's right hand? This shows on God's revelation of light and Gila. Usually the right hand is like God's kindness. That's what it means, God's right hand spread out the heavens. The Shamayim, the heavens, the intention is the upper worlds. There, a Gila, the revelation is in a level of right, which is a big revelation of light. And the light itself is much, much more powerful. But you get a lot of light in the upper worlds, and the quality of the light is a higher quality of light of revelation of the Creator. The Eretz, when we're talking about the earth, the Kavanah is talking about Olamot Taktonim, this world. The Haim, this is comes from God's left arm, which God's left arm, this is much more concealed. The Gama or Atzmo, and also the light itself is very little, it's very small. Kiyadua, like it's known, the difference between the four worlds. Like it says, it's a sentence in Isaiah, call in Nikra B'Shemi, anything which is called in my name and my glory. Barati, I created it, Yatzarti, I formed it, and I also made it. That this is referring to, get ready everyone, the four worlds. Atzilut, Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya. Atzilut is pure godliness. Bria is called the world of creation. There's no form there. It's just creation, whatever that means. Yetzira is the world that there's not only is there godliness and there is form, but there's and there's creation, but there's also form to the creation, Yetzira. And Asiya is talking about this physical world. Even though Asiya is really divided into two, there's spiritual and physical. In any case, all these worlds, the light is not like it is in Atzilus, like it is in Bria, Yetzira, and Asiya. In Atzilut, there's much more light, more in quantity, and also in quality. The light of God, the awareness of God is V'chinas Giluy HaHelam. And to give you a little bit idea what it means when God reveals himself at Mount Sinai, it says when God revealed himself that everyone's souls jumped out of their bodies. That same revelation that was on Mount Sinai of God was in the Holy of Holies. If any person went into the Holy of Holies in the course of the year, even the whole high priest, they would die. Why would they die? Because the revelation was so great of godliness that it was just too much. You couldn't take it. The only way that they could go in is only one person, the high priest, and he could go in only on Yom Kippur, and then he could go into the Holy of Holies and he could live. Why? Because it was a commandment. He was doing what God commanded. The commandment protected him. Exactly the opposite. He went not to protect him, That was the reason he went in, was because of this. The commandment was God's will that he should go into the Holy of Holies. That's what protected him. But the Holy of Holies itself is like the world of Atzilut, or like the world of Bria. In the second temple, the third, is a little bit lower, it says. Atzilut is a tremendously high level of the Creator. Atzilut comes from Etzel v'samach. The word Atzilus means it's next to God. And also the word Atzilut comes from Atzala v'afrasha, means to emanate. It's like pure godliness. It's not God himself. It's still godliness, God's revelation. Atzilut, this is the level of world. It's a world, but it's in the general, it's called one of the worlds of Ein Sof. There's higher levels also. This is an infinite world, which is two opposites. It's what they call an oxymoron. Can't have an infinite world. A world means that it's not limited. It's limited. It's a world that has a definition, has a name. And infinite means that it's not limited. Nevertheless, that's what the world of Atzilus is. That's what was revealed in this. Okay, again, we have to keep stressing. The Rebbe is not trying to tell us what God is not. He's trying to tell us what God is, that God does exist. God creates all existence. God wants us to attach to him. The only way we can sort of, though, comprehend this is a negative way. God is not what I think. He's not the world of the physical world, and he's not even the spiritual world of Asiya, and not the spiritual world of Yetzirah, which is not the case of Bria. The world of Bria, this is the beginning of the existence. Bria means to be created, creation. This is the beginning of creation, something from nothing. Of course, the something over there is a spiritual something, which we have no idea what that means, but that's what it means, calling Nikra Bishmi Kavodi. That's what Isaiah was saying. Anyone who calls in my name and my glory, mine. Name and my glory. Just one moment, please. One moment. Just give me one moment here. One moment. Okay. My name and my glory. This is Miyuchad Biyadayim. This is still united with me. Shakai, this refers to the world of Atzilut. The world of Atzilut, that's what it says, the highest dimension. Now, these four worlds, they exist here. We just don't perceive it. Well, what is that? What is the Rebbe gave an example. I don't know if I want to go into the example right now, but okay, well, let's see. I'll give you the example that the Rebbe gave. The Rebbe gave the example like this. What are these four worlds? They exist right here. Let's just take an example. Geometry. Ever learned geometry, any of you people? Well, in geometry, I learned a little bit. In geometry, there's what we call a point, and there's a line, and there's a plane, and there's a cube. According to geometry, a point has no dimensions. It's just where two lines intercept each other. It has no dimensions. A point has no dimensions. A line has one dimension, length. It has no height, it has no depth. How many points go into a line? Infinite. Infinite number of points go into a line. Why? Because a point has no dimensions. So you can take a line and you can intersect it, cut it off, divide it, whatever, as many times as you want to. Each one of those intersections is a point. It's infinite because a line has no height to it. It only has length. So you can take another line and you can go through each line. Each line has no width to it. So the infinite number of points in a line. And then there's a plane. A plane has two dimensions. It has length and it has height. How many lines are there in a plane? Infinite number. You can take a plane and intersect it with lines as many times. Okay, so if so, then how many points are in a line? Infinite. How many lines are in a plane? Infinite. How many planes are in a cube? A cube has depth. So you can take a cube and can slice it theoretically infinite times. Okay, so we have infinite number of points in a line, an infinite number of lines in a plane, and an infinite number of planes in a cube. How many points are there in a cube? So it's like 3 times infinite, right? So that makes no sense. Maybe mathematicians or something could make sense out of it, but it makes no sense. If there's already an infinite number of lines and points in a line, so a line is infinitely greater than point. So how can there be 3 times infinite in a cube of points? How many points are we given? That makes no sense, right? So he says, that's what we're talking about, something like this. The world of it, let's extrapolate this now to our example, even though it's not really good. It just comes to show us how there can be different levels of infinity. So we have the world of Atzilut, for our purposes, let's say like a cube, right? There's a cube. And in the world of Atzilut is the world of Bria. Bria is infinitely smaller, infinitely less real than the world of Atzilus is. The world of Yetzir, which is a lower world, that's infinitely less real than Bria. Inside of that is the world of Asiya, that's me and you. We're infinitely less real than the world above us, Yetzirah. So how much unreal are we compared to Atzilus? 3 times unreal. Okay, so let's take this even more. How many cubes are there in mathematics? How much mathematics is there in consciousness? So these questions, that doesn't make any sense because we're talking about, that's what we're dealing with here, but even more so. So we're talking about that God is infinitely real, and he creates Atzilut. God creates Atzilut. So another thing, we would say God creates mathematics, he creates intelligence, he creates life. But we're talking, this is the God we're serving. This is the God that wants us to do things. That should make us happy. You have to think about this though, because it's not a part of our normal. This refers to the world of Atzilus. This is the world of Or Sham, B'tachlit Tegiloi. The or and the light of God in Atzilus is infinitely real. The Ein Odom, it's not at all. And Atzilut, it's infinitely more real and powerful than it is in the worlds of Bria, Yetzir, and Asiya, this revelation of God. And in Bria, Yetzir, and Asiya, it's more itself, there's different, and how God is revealed in the world of Bria, like it is world in Yetzir, which is lower, and Asiya, which is an even lower dimension. All this, we're talking about all these spiritual worlds, which are totally incomprehensible to us, right? And totally incomprehensible to me, for sure. Maybe to you it's comprehensible. To me, I know that it's written here about it. But all this is in the light which comes to enliven the worlds in a way of what's called memalik holmim, the light of God, which is articulated, which is limited, but in the light of God, which is above in the worlds, the Creator Himself. That this we say is soviv holmim, it surrounds all the worlds. That it is soviv makif, the world that surrounds all existence. In other words, it defies all existence, creates everything in an unlimited way. This is the quality of God that gives everything existence, that everything exists, right? A stone exists, I exist, angels exist. It's all the same thing. Hari Meir B'Kol Olamos, this shines in all the worlds equally. But that's what it means when we do what God wants, this light of God becomes revealed. Or in simple English, it's revealed the reason why God is doing all this. When we do what God wants, it reveals in the world, why is God doing all this? Or more exactly, why God is creating me. That's why they used to go to the Holy Temple. They would feel happy. Hainu, Sha'or Zeh, this light, Hine, Ofen, the way it is drawn down is in all of the worlds equally. That's what it's coming to tell us. Not that when we do a good deed, that the angels in Bria, they get some benefit. It's coming to tell us that the light, that what we arouse in God, we're arousing, so to speak, God's essence. And God gets pleasure. The whole entire world is benefits. All the worlds, all the creation. But in order to draw down this world, how do we do it, right? Is you have to climb up on a mountain, you have to fast for 90 days. No. This is by means of avoda. All you have to do is serve God. Ba'avoda tabirurim, refining in a way as eskafia v'eshapchadavka. By means of forcing yourself to do what God wants and refrain from what God prohibits, and eshapcha, and enjoying what God wants and detesting what God prohibits. That's what it means when there is pushed away the sitracha, the other side. Kasher poil, when a person accomplishes ba'avoda, so in his service, to be eskafia sitracha, to force and to push away all these things which are other than God, other than God's will. And then you can transform what's called darkness to light. Darkness in our case means selfishness, egotism. Egotism is darkness. You're thinking about yourself. You have this little sort of funnel vision that you don't see anything except for yourself. When you can get out of the selfishness, even if it's spiritual selfishness, there's a new type and a better type of a light that comes from darkness. When the darkness is transformed to light, or then there's a better type of light. It shines in a revealed light until it shines below. So just think about this. If when we do what God wants, this shines a new light into Atzilut, that same light is shined down here. We feel all of a sudden, okay, we're just human beings, so we can't really appreciate this. But nevertheless, it's happening. We have to have faith. This is emunah. This is faith. That something is happening in the world. The world gets a little bit improved. Hainu, shenimshach ha'or, there's drawn down such a light of God, such a revelation of God, asher ofen hamshachaso, that the way that it's drawn is all the worlds equally. That's what it means. All these religions that say, oh, well, you do this, you're going to go to heaven. You don't do this, you're going to go to hell. Heaven, heaven, hell, hell, hell. Heaven, you know what heaven is? It's some pleasures in heaven. You have no idea what pleasures you get. You're going to go to heaven. But one second, all these things about heaven and hell, that's talking about me. What does God get out of the whole business? Nah, what are you talking about? God is that. He just set the whole thing up. And he just sort of watches us, once in a while he turns on the television, sees what we're doing. It's getting out of hand. He sends a couple of, he sends in the riot squad, take care of us. That's what says the Rebbe. No, that's not the point. That's not the point at all. Well, just one moment, please. One moment. Isn't this person? Rachshnia. Isn't this, somebody's calling me. One second, I got an important call over here. I know this is not part of the class. It's not. All right, so this, when you do something insignificant, that you think it's insignificant, you hold yourself back from doing something God doesn't. You hold your mouth from saying a bad thing about somebody. You do a good thing, you help somebody else. What do you get out of it? Forget what you get out of it. You did what God wants. If you do things with that attitude, says the Rebbe, and you have to have faith that this is true, this reveals godliness, the essence of God in all of the worlds, this physical world, the upper worlds. The main thing is you pleased the Creator. That's what it means, kataskafe, when there is pushed away, the sitra achra, the other side, astalik, there is spread out the glory of God in all the worlds. This is talking about a level of light, a type of light which is drawn down, a soviv kalmim, in that the way that it's drawn down is into all of the worlds equally. Okay, so in simple English, we're talking about that we can say God reacts. You have a little appreciation of what God is. We just talked about all these upper worlds and how God creates them. You have a little bit of an idea what we're talking about, a little bit. Was how high his God is, and he's above the angels, and he's above going to the world to come. He's above heaven, he's above all this. When you do what God wants or refrain from what God doesn't want, we force ourselves, this gives God pleasure. And a little bit, maybe we can appreciate this in this physical world, and we can expand this. And then when you follow your conscience, a person follows his conscience, right? There were people in the time of communist Russia, in the time of Nazi Germany, that they said, listen, I'm not going to turn in my mother and father just because they are against the regime. I'm not going to do it, right? And because they didn't do it, they died. They died. They were willing to die. What did they get out of it? What did they get out of it? They didn't go to heaven. They didn't do anything. They didn't do it for religious purposes. They did it because they felt it was honest. It was right. There were people that have chances to steal. They have chances to cheat, right? And they don't do it. I know people that they're married and their spouse is ill, and they take care of them, and they get absolutely nothing in return. Why do they do it? Not because they're afraid they're going to get punished or something like that. Why they do it? They do it because it's the right thing to do. Because of love, because of whatever. What do they get out of it? A certain wholesomeness that's above understanding. Other people say, you're crazy. What did you do that for? What did you give the money back for? You found the wallet. What did you give it? I don't know. But you need the money. What can I do? Maybe the other guy needs the money also. Right? Honesty, bravery. In Cain, if so, when a person does what, okay, that's not necessarily doing what God wants, it's doing what your conscience says or what it is. Okay, but here we're talking about doing what God wants. You're doing it because you know what God, how do you know what God wants? That's what the Torah is for. In Cain, if so, Meir shines below like it is above. That's what it means. Make me a holy temple. I'll dwell in them inside of each and every one by means of the service of Eskafi, of Eshapcha. That's what the Rebbe wants from this mimer, that we have to realize how tremendously important we are and how precious we are, how precious every instant is, and how we should look at every situation that we're in as a challenge, as an opportunity, that we can force ourselves to do what God wants, and we can, and to avoid what God doesn't want. Hine, behold, by means of this, right? You don't get angry, you don't have you lust, you don't do. By means of this, there's made a new type of a light. There's spread out the glory of God in all the worlds, that there shines a type of light, which is the light of Sovev Kol Almin, that surrounds. Kitzur, summary, the main Shekhinah, God's presence, was in the physical world when God created it. And then King Solomon, when he made the temple, that brought God back. You've also explained that the whole intention why God created the world is that God should be in the world. Physical world, like King Solomon did, put it in, but that the whole world should be transformed like a holy temple, and that each and every one of us is a holy temple. But we have to plug ourselves in by what? Eskafi and Eshapcha, by forcing ourselves to do what God wants and transforming ourselves that we really want to do what God wants. And this draws down what's called the surrounding light of God, that this is in all the worlds equally, that we actually please the Creator himself. And God reacts to this in all the world. The whole world becomes better. As we'll talk about more, God willing, tomorrow. Now let's do the Dvar Malchut.